The world doesn't owe you success. It owes you nothing, but it will hand you everything if you're willing to get up and get it done. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have you buried because you were waiting to feel ready? How many mornings have you lost, telling yourself, tomorrow I'll begin? Let me tell you the truth. Your life will not change by accident. It will only change by effort. And by the end of this video, if you truly listen, your mindset will never be the same. Because I'm going to teach you how to stop waiting, stop wishing, and start doing. Not next week. Today. Comfort is a cage disguised as a couch. It feels warm. It feels soft. It tells you to stay a little longer. And you believe it because it whispers the one thing you're desperate to hear. You're fine just the way you are. But let me tell you something, friend. You are not meant to stay where it's safe. You're meant to grow, to stretch, to rise. And growth never happens on a couch. You see, the couch is a liar. It promises peace but delivers stagnation. It pretends to be your sanctuary, but slowly, quietly, it becomes your prison. Day by day, hour by hour, it eats away at your ambition. And the worst part? You don't even notice it happening. Not at first. There's a strange psychology behind this. The human brain is hardwired to conserve energy, to avoid discomfort, to repeat familiar patterns. That's biology trying to protect you from danger. But in a world where danger isn't tigers or famine, but missed goals, lost time, and wasted talent, comfort becomes a real threat. Think of the millions of people who wake up every day with a dream, but never take the first step, not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because comfort feels safer than failure, because staying the same seems less risky than changing everything. But the truth? Staying the same is the riskiest decision of all. I once met a man who told me he wanted to start a business, said he had the idea, the plan, even the funding. But every time he got close, he retreated. He'd binge a few shows, take a nap, tell himself he'd try again next week. That next week became 7 years. By then, someone else had launched the same idea and built a multi-million-dollar company with it. Comfort had cost him his future. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it robs you of momentum. It doesn't demand anything from you, and that's the problem. It never asks you to grow, never asks you to lead, never asks you to rise and become more. You were not designed for a life of ease. You were built to pursue purpose, to chase mastery, to do work that leaves a mark on this world. But that kind of life demands sweat. It demands hunger. It demands the uncomfortable. So the next time you feel that urge to just relax a little longer, ask yourself, is this rest or resistance? Because one recharges you, the other destroys you. Get off the couch. Turn off the noise. Walk out of that comfort cage before it becomes your coffin. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the life you wanted was always waiting just beyond the edge of comfort. And that life, it only belongs to those who have the courage to rise, to move, to get up and get it done. Discipline is the door to freedom. That sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? Discipline, this rigid, structured word we often associate with pain and pressure. And freedom, the golden word we use to describe everything we want. Time, wealth, choice, peace. But what most people never realize is that one is the price of the other. You can't have freedom without discipline. I met a man once, smart, talented, overflowed with potential, but he was always in chaos, late on bills, out of shape, starting things but never finishing. He blamed the system, blamed his job, blamed the economy. But the truth was simpler. He never mastered discipline. And without discipline, even the greatest potential ends up scattered, wasted, buried beneath good intentions and unfinished plans. Here's the twist. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in motion. It's your way of saying, I matter enough to follow through. And every time you do what you said you would, especially when you don't feel like it, you carve out a little more freedom. The freedom to choose how your day goes. The freedom to wake up without regret. The freedom to build, to grow, to become who you were meant to be. Think of the athlete who trains at 5 a.m. while the world sleeps. The musician who practices scales for hours while their friends go out. the entrepreneur who sacrifices weekends to build their vision. It's not because they love pain, it's because they love what discipline creates. Let me take you back to a farmer I met in Minnesota. Woke up every morning at 4:30 without fail. Rain, snow, doesn't matter. I asked him once, "Don't you ever get tired of the grind?" He smiled and said, "Tired? Sure, but I love knowing I've earned everything I have. There's no guilt in my day. No what ifs." That's what discipline gives you, not just success, but peace. Psychologically, here's why it works. Every act of discipline strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, planning, and long-term thinking. You are literally rewiring yourself for greatness every time you choose consistency over comfort. You won't always be motivated. No one is. But discipline fills the gaps when motivation runs dry. It's the bridge between your goals and your results. It's the hand that drags you out of bed when your feelings beg you to stay. And don't think you need to start with giant steps. Start small. Drink the water. Do the workout. Write the page. Say no to the second dessert. Because every small discipline compounds, and over time, it transforms. People crave freedom, but most are unwilling to pay its price. Not you. Not anymore. Because you know now. Freedom isn't found in escape. It's earned through effort. Discipline is the gate. You are the key. So unlock it and get it done. Motivation follows movement. That's the truth most people never hear. You think you need to feel good before you start. You wait for the fire, the spark, the energy. But that's not how this works. Motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after. You move first. Then the motivation shows up. I knew a young man once who said, "I'm just waiting to feel inspired. When I'm in the right headspace, then I'll go all in." That was 5 years ago, and he's still waiting, still stuck, because he thought the fuel came before the fire. He didn't realize you have to strike the match first. The human mind is built to protect you. It wants comfort, safety, familiarity. So when you try to move, when you try to push forward, it resists. But the moment you act, even in a small way, you shift the chemistry of your body. That's not philosophy, that's biology. Action releases dopamine, a chemical that drives you forward. That one push, that one step, it creates a ripple. And suddenly, you feel like doing more. Think about it. Ever had one of those lazy mornings where you can get out of bed? But then, you finally get up, you take a shower, make your bed, put on your shoes, and before you know it, you're in motion. The fog lifts. The energy rises. You didn't wait for motivation. You moved, and motivation followed. That's the key. I met a single mother who worked 2 jobs and was building a business on the side. I asked her, "How do you stay so driven?" She said, "I don't. I just keep showing up. I move first, even when I'm tired, even when I'm empty. And once I'm in motion, the purpose kicks in." That's a warrior mindset. See, we've been sold a lie that successful people are always inspired. But the truth is, they've mastered the art of moving without motivation. They don't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" They ask, "What's the next step?" Then they take it. No debate, no delay. Psychologists call it behavioral activation. It's a method used to treat depression, because even in the darkest moments, when you move your body, when you take action, the mind starts to heal. Emotion follows motion. So if you're stuck, don't wait for the perfect feeling. You don't need a spark. You need a step. Walk around the block. Open the laptop. Make the call. Clean the desk. Whatever it is, just move. Because motion builds momentum. And momentum builds motivation. Stop waiting for inspiration to strike like lightning. It won't. You are the storm. You are the spark. But only if you move. So today, right now, take one step forward. Then another. And soon enough, you'll realize you don't chase motivation. You create it. By doing. By moving. By getting it done. Excuses are lies dressed as logic. They sound smart. They feel reasonable. They wear a suit of justification, so convincing that even you believe them. But deep down, behind every excuse is a fear you haven't faced. You say, now's not the right time. That's the lie. The truth? You're scared to start. You say, I don't have the resources. That's the lie. The truth? You haven't gotten resourceful. You say, I tried once and it didn't work. That's the lie. The truth? You gave up when it got hard. Excuses whisper in your ear like a friend, but they are your silent enemy. They rob you of your power while pretending to protect your pride. I once worked with a man who had every reason to succeed: talent, charm, drive. But every time an opportunity came up, he had an excuse ready. The market's too unstable. My boss is holding me back. I don't have the right connections. One day, I asked him point blank, what if none of that's true? What if the only thing stopping you is you? He didn't say a word. He just stared at the ground. That was the first time he saw the costume his excuses were wearing. Psychologically, excuses are defense mechanisms. Your brain uses them to avoid discomfort, embarrassment, or risk. It gives you reasons to stay still, because motion might expose your flaws. But let me tell you, greatness is not found in protection. It's found in pursuit. And here's the real danger. The smarter you are, the better your excuses sound. You can explain your failure with flowcharts. You can justify an action with quotes, data, and debate. But in the end, no amount of logic can replace action. There was a young woman I met at a seminar. She wanted to start a coaching business, but told me she wasn't qualified. I asked her, how long have you been studying this? She said, for years. I asked, have you helped people already? She said, yes, lots of friends. So what was the problem? She was letting perfectionism disguise itself as preparation. She had the skills. She had the heart. But her excuse kept her caged. I told her, you don't need more credentials. You need more courage. Today, she's changing lives, not because she waited until she was perfect, but because she finally stopped lying to herself. That's the turning point, when you get honest. Excuses die the moment you tell the truth. The truth that it's scary. The truth that you might fail. The truth that it's your responsibility. Not your parents, not your bosses, not the economy's yours. And once you own that truth, everything changes. So the next time you hear that clever little voice giving you an out, ask yourself, is this logic or is this fear in disguise? And then cut through the costume, shatter the story, stand up, and get it done. Your goals don't care how you feel. They don't check if you're tired, overwhelmed, sad, uninspired, or having a rough day. They sit there cold, silent, and unchanged, waiting for you to either rise or retreat. You see, feelings are fleeting. They change with the weather, with a bad night's sleep, with one rude comment from a stranger. But goals? Goals are fixed points in the distance. They don't move just because you're moody. They demand action, regardless of your emotional state. I once knew a boxer in New York, trained 6 days a week. He told me, there are days I wake up sore, mentally drained, and thinking of quitting, but the fight date doesn't shift to fit my feelings. So I show up anyway. That's the mindset of a champion, not because he felt like it, but because he was committed to it. Let me make this plain. Your emotions are not your compass. Your values are. If you only work when it's convenient, you'll never build consistency. If you only push when you feel inspired, you'll never reach mastery. Growth doesn't wait for your permission. It only rewards your persistence. Here's what most people do. They let how they feel in the moment destroy what they want long term. I'm too tired. I'm not in the mood. I'll do it tomorrow. And then, days become weeks. Weeks become years. Until one day, they wake up to a life filled with potential, but buried in regret. I knew a single father, 3 kids, working nights, trying to get his degree. You think he felt good writing essays after midnight? You think he was full of motivation after a 10-hour shift? No, but he had a vision his feelings couldn't shake, to build a better life for his children. And that vision overpowered every excuse. Psychologically, this is about emotional discipline, the ability to act based on commitment, not comfort. That's what separates those who make it from those who don't. Winners don't suppress their emotions. They override them. They feel tired and still take action. They feel fear and still step forward. They feel doubt and still do the work. The truth is, your feelings aren't the enemy, but they can't be your leader, because your goals aren't interested in excuses. They only respond to execution. So, what do you do when you don't feel like it? You show up anyway. You make the call. You do the reps. You write the page. Because every time you do, you reinforce a deeper truth. You are not a slave to your emotions. You are the architect of your outcome. Your goals don't care how you feel, but they will remember what you did. So stop asking how you feel. Start asking what needs to be done, and then get up and get it done. Time isn't the problem. Priorities are. Everyone says they don't have enough time, but that's never been true. The truth? You have the same 24 hours as everyone else who's ever made something of their life. Same clock, same calendar. The difference isn't time. It's what you choose to do with it. Let's be honest. When you say, I don't have time, what you really mean is, it's not important enough to me. You find time to scroll, to binge watch, to gossip. But when it comes to your goals, your dreams, your health, your legacy, suddenly no time. Why? Because priorities don't scream, they whisper. And distractions? They yell. I once coached a young man who said he wanted to start a business. Brilliant mind, great product idea. But he kept saying, I just don't have the time. So I asked him, how many hours a week do you watch Netflix? He said, probably 10 to 12. I said, congratulations. You just found the time. His face turned red. That was the moment he realized it wasn't about hours. It was about ownership. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because once you stop blaming time, you're left facing your choices. See, time doesn't disappear. It just gets spent one decision at a time. Every minute is a vote for your goals or against them, a vote for purpose or for procrastination. The question is, what are you voting for? Psychologically, we avoid what matters most because it often requires the most of us. Discipline, focus, sacrifice. So instead, we fill the space with noise, with the urgent instead of the important. It feels productive, but it's just movement, not progress. I met a single mom working 2 jobs who still made time to study every night. Why? Because her kids were her priority. She didn't say, I'm too busy. She said, this matters. And because of that, she earned her degree, started her business, and bought her first home, all within 3 years. Not because she had more time, but because she had clearer priorities. Let me be clear. You don't need more hours. You need more intention. Your day is a reflection of what you value. If you're not moving toward your vision, it's not a time issue. It's a truth issue. Want to change your life? Don't ask, where did the time go? Ask, where did I let my focus go? Don't track hours. Track choices. Don't chase balance. Chase alignment. Because the clock isn't the enemy. Confusion is. And when your priorities are clear, decisions become easy. So stop saying, I don't have time. Start saying, that's not my priority. And if that statement stings, good. Now you know what needs to change. Get clear, get focused, and get it done. Self-belief is not a gift. It's not something you're born with. It's earned through action, through showing up when it's hard, through doing what you said you would do, even when nobody's watching. Confidence isn't created in comfort. It's built in the trenches, when you're tired, uncertain, and tempted to quit, but you move forward anyway. People think they need confidence before they act. That's backward. You act first, confidence follows. Just like a fire needs friction to spark, belief needs motion to ignite. You can read all the books, say all the affirmations, and write all the goals in your journal, but until you take action, nothing changes. I once met a young woman who wanted to become a public speaker. She had the passion, the message, the heart, but zero confidence. Every time I asked, why haven't you started? She'd say, I don't believe in myself yet. So we set a challenge. 10 minutes, 1 video, just talk. She hesitated, then did it. Was it perfect? No, but it was real. And the moment she hit upload, she stood taller. Why? Because she'd done the hard thing, and that one act lit a spark. A few months later, she was on stage in front of 500 people. Not because the fear vanished, but because her belief grew louder than her doubt. Belief is like a muscle. You don't wish it stronger, you train it. You lift heavier choices. You stretch past your limits. And every rep you put in, every time you act in alignment with your goals, you get stronger, more sure, more steady. Now here's the psychological truth. Your brain watches what you do. It doesn't believe what you say. It believes what you consistently prove. So if you break promises to yourself, skip your goals, or retreat when things get tough, your brain takes notes. And over time, it whispers, maybe you're not who you say you are. That's how self-doubt creeps in. Not because you lack potential, but because you lack proof. But flip that around. Start keeping those promises. Start making small wins non-negotiable. Wake up, show up, follow through, and suddenly your brain starts saying, hey, maybe we can do this. That's real self-belief, not based on hype, but on history, on action. And listen, this is not about being fearless. It's about being faithful. Faithful to your growth. Faithful to the version of you that's waiting on the other side of discomfort. Fear screams, but faith whispers. And the only way to hear it is to move. So no more waiting to believe in yourself. That's not how belief works. Start, do, push, build, brick by brick, day by day. Earn your own respect. Because when you've shown up enough times, when you've fought through enough resistance, when you've proven to yourself that you won't quit, you'll no longer hope you believe in yourself. You'll know, and that's where the real power begins. You will never regret the work, only the wait. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Effort might exhaust you. Discipline might stretch you. But procrastination, it haunts you. Let's be honest. How many times have you looked back and said, I'm so glad I waited 3 years to start? Never. Not once. Because time delays don't protect your dreams. They weaken them. They steal your momentum. They let doubt creep into the cracks. And worst of all, they make you forget why you wanted in the first place. See, the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret, that stays. That's the sting in your chest when you see someone else living the life you wanted, when you watch the clock and realize you traded your potential for comfort. That's a tough pill, and I've had to swallow it too. Years ago, I had the idea for a book. I knew the message. I knew it could help people. But I kept saying it's not the right time. Week after week, month after month, I waited for the stars to align, for motivation to strike like lightning. It never did. What did show up? Regret. That deep ache that says, you could have done more. You just didn't. And one day, I woke up and said, enough. I wrote for 2 hours a day, every day. No excuses. 6 months later, that book changed lives, and mine. And all I could think was, why didn't I start sooner? That's the lesson. The work feels hard, but it feels honest. The weight, that feels heavy, and empty, and quiet. It's the kind of silence that doesn't bring peace. It brings pressure. Psychologically, we wait because we think we need more clarity, more time, more certainty. But action creates clarity. You don't think your way into progress. You move your way into it. Even a wrong step teaches more than a year of hesitation. And here's the truth no one tells you. The work is where the meaning is. Not the finish line, not the praise, but the process. Waking up early when it's dark, pushing past the fear, keeping a promise to yourself when no one else even knows you made it. That's where the pride comes from. That's where self-respect is born. So if you're stuck in the waiting room of your life, hear me now. Get out. Do the hard thing. Write the page. Make the call. Launch the idea. Start messy. Start scared. But for God's sake, start. Because you will never regret the effort. You'll never look back and say, I wish I hadn't tried so hard. But you might look back with tears in your eyes and whisper, why did I wait so long to believe I could? And that, my friend, is a regret you don't want to carry. So get up, Get to work. And stop waiting for the perfect moment. Create it. Your future is watching. Right now. It's not a distant concept. It's not some abstract idea floating in the clouds. Your future is being built this very second, brick by brick, based on the choices you're making today. Think about that. Every decision you make, every time you hit snooze, every time you scroll instead of build, every time you choose comfort over commitment, your future self is watching, and they're either going to thank you or resent you. Most people don't realize that procrastination isn't just a delay, it's a betrayal. You're not only postponing your potential, you're robbing your future self of power, of peace, of pride. Let me tell you about a man I met once after a seminar. He was in his 50s, sharp, articulate, but you could see the weight in his eyes. After everyone left, he walked up and said, "Jim, I made all the safe choices. I always waited until I felt ready. I gave everything to everyone else, and now I barely recognize my own reflection." His voice cracked. He said, "The worst part? I knew better. I just didn't act." That's when it hit me. The future doesn't punish us. It just reflects us. If you pour in discipline, it reflects discipline. If you pour in excuses, it reflects struggle. And if you pour in courage, regardless of fear or failure, it reflects growth. You don't get the future you wish for. You get the future you work for. Psychologically, this is critical. The brain is wired for short-term rewards. It wants dopamine now. That's why it's so easy to trade long-term gain for instant comfort. But the mind can be retrained. When you remind yourself that every effort is casting a vote for your future identity, it shifts your focus. Suddenly, skipping the gym isn't just a missed workout. It's a message to your future that says, your health doesn't matter. Quitting on your dreams? That's not relief. It's permission for your future to suffer in silence. You have to decide, what kind of future is watching you right now? Is it a version of you that's proud, focused, free? Or is it a version weighed down by the burden of unfulfilled potential? And here's the beauty. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start showing up. Consistently. Boldly. One action at a time. Because when you show up for your future shows up for you. So next time you feel like slacking, remember, your future self is watching. They're taking notes. They're hoping you'll fight for them. Make them proud. Make them powerful. Make them look back one day and say, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Because that's the moment your future becomes your legacy. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. You're not stuck. You're just scared. You're not broken. You're just procrastinating. You're not out of time. You're just wasting it. The moment you realize that is the moment you take your power back. You don't need another book, another podcast, another course. You need a decision to rise, to fight, to get up and get it done. Because here's the final truth. Nobody's coming to save you. But the good news? You don't need saving. You need action. You need fire. You need you. So get up and get it done. This is your time.